I'm Charles,
This is Emmanuel.
and you are listening to
Blight makes right.
the original Legion of Everblight podcast.
We're here.
Oh, it feels good. Like after 3 episodes of the other themes, we're back to like my home, my happy place of my Urukai affect, awesomeness. Oh baby, Primal Terrors. The least change, but still the most amazing.
It's good to be back in Journal. It feels nice to be back on the mic with you, back in Legion, right in the Blighty home where we should be.
Yeah. So we got to do a shout out to your shirt though, buddy. Like you got to show this thing off.
So check it out. I'm wearing the
Reppin'.
Blightbringer shirt. Class right here. That's sexy. Nice little patch. So thank you guys. Mad shout out to the Blightbringers cast. Mad love.
Don't worry, I'll be rocking mine too. I already posted a picture on the Facebooks. It's a comfy shirt, so I'm definitely digging it. Oh, you're bulking up. You're gonna fill that shirt out though, buddy. Like
Without a
you're not
doubt,
gonna
man.
bust the seams.
I'm hoping by this time next year I've got an extra 20 pounds of muscle on me.
It's funny. You're bulking up right now. I'm slimming down, but I'm gonna be into that bulk train real soon, and it's me.
Get it?
Bro, do you even lift? But all right, but let's away from the weight loss and bulking talk, and let's talk about Primal Terrors because oh god, I love this theme so much. I know every time I read one of those posts in like the Legion group, and there's something like I got into Legion to play elves, and I'm like, there's a part of
Why?
me that's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? uh, like gotta have my blighted Ogren. God, I love these guys so much. So I guess I'll do the Primal Terrors breakdown because obviously there's not much changes, but we'll review. There might be some people that are just coming back to the game. So Primal Terrors, baby. Army composition, Legion Warcasters, non-character war beasts, Golab, Blighted Ogren models and units, Blighted Rotwing units, Hellmouth units, Forsaken solos, Spellmartyr solos. And then you can bring in one minion unit and one minion solo. Requisition options, one Hellmouth unit, one Legion command attachment, one small or medium based Legion solo, and then the special rules, Blighted Ogren Warmonger and Blighted Ogren Warspear units gain Vengeance. So the only big changes here, obviously, no +2 inches of deployment. That's the loss, but that's kind of something else happened across the board. That's to be expected. That's hitting all of us. But the cool things that we gained now, Forsaken can be taken as a free option. They could not be taken as a free option before, so that's definitely a plus. But also, you don't. I mean, the main thing is you just don't have to take 60 points of Ogren now. Like you can take whatever amount that you want. So there's certain casters that right off the board we're already only getting two free things, and now they're going to get an extra one. So let's just like briefly hit on like David's list. He was already rocking his primary list, right? Was Thagrosh 1, and he was playing Blightbringer and Golab, so he didn't get free Gorag. Now he does. And so I don't know what his list is going to look like, but just a quick tweak where I'm thinking about what he was bringing and what you could do with 6 points. Like now it would be like Thagrosh 1 with Amik, Blightbringer, Golab, War Chief, Warmongers ×3, one unit with Gorag, double free Hellmouth. But now you have 6 more points. So I was thinking Hermit of Hengehold and a Spellmartyr would kind of round that out and give it a better solo package. But theoretically, you could drop the War Chief and the Hermit and potentially have 10 points to play around with. You could get it. You could get in like Min Rotwings if you wanted. Like there's some cool shit you can do. But I
A
think that list
protector
wants the
comes in at 10
solos.
points.
But
You know
man,
my
it's
love of the
interesting.
protector.
Like, dude, I'm still most of my lists are PT. I know there's so much to be excited about, but I just love building PT lists. But I think we should probably go over the other classics, kind of take some of the mainstays of PT and talk about what it's going to be like changing those up. And I know Animag is your girl. Like, she is not the prettiest, but she is a loyal lady.
She's the reason I play PT. I'm not gonna lie. Like looking at the whole thing across the board, there are some interesting casters here, and there's a lot of great options. But I love my Ogren lady. She is just everything I've ever wanted in a caster rolled up into one, super sexy. And initially coming to this from hundreds, I don't want to say hundreds, almost 100 games of Animag, I would say my list probably wouldn't change very much up front. But getting the flexibility to not have to be tied to Ogren means that I can put more things into her battle group. And you and I have talked about this a lot on previous Blight Makes Right episodes, and that Golab may be too good. Like, I don't want to say that out loud. I don't want to jinx it, but he is definitely undercosted for the
Golab
value.
is too good for other factions.
For sure. He is
Yeah.
right on par for Legion. But he's, in my opinion, probably below that like Jedi curve. And I think you said it very recently to me that he's literally like the dick punch to the meta. Like
Yeah.
meta meet Golab. And I love that. And I think that Animag in a lot of ways has always been that for me. She's been my meta hammer, just to power through all the tough, all the armor, all the bodies, just beat them into the ground.
If there was a
And
meme right now, it's you holding a sledgehammer, but instead of like the hammerhead, it's just Animag, just like
basically that, and
yeah.
I felt like that a lot pre-Oblivion, but now that I can kind of flex around and play a little bit more with her battle group. Previously I was running her just the Blightbringer and the Harrier, and theoretically, because I got to get some more games in with it, I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of room to put Golab back into her list, even with the Blightbringer. Now that you don't have to worry so much about bringing all the Ogren, you have to think about
Hmm.
like net trade across. Would I trade Golab for X? And if X isn't better than Golab, and if you tell me it is, I might have to argue with you. Um, it's an interesting trade-off. So the current list I think I'm going to be piloting is Animag, Amok, Blightbringer, and Golab, Warmonger Warchief, 2 Forsaken, 3 Spell Martyrs, 2 Hellmouths, Chosen, Warmongers, and Gorag. Now there's plenty of room for flex here. I have just over like 15 points in support in there. But it works out really nicely. One of my favorite things about Animag is that she can tune anything up. But one of the nice additions to this, other than just bringing Golab, is also being able to shoehorn in the 2 Forsaken. Having some Fury batteries in there to suck it up off the Blightbringer early means that she doesn't have to worry so much about that kind of careful balance that she tends to play with the Blightbringer. It also means that if you have a fully loaded Forsaken, that you can either A, get some things that are under the feet aura and then blight bomb something and make those blight bombs stronger, or they can go in as a solo that also causes Dark Shroud, that swing in PAL 14s now and getting multiple attacks. And they're
Might be
great.
POW 16 if they're in the Blightbringer aura.
Could be PAL 16 if they're in the Blightbringer order. They could, just get in there and wreck some stuff. And then, last but not least, they're great for clearing off jam. So if your Warmongers or your Ogren or even your Blightbringer ends up getting jammed up, they can walk over and pop some things off. But one of my favorite tricks has always been to drag things to their death. You've got double Hellmouth and a Gallows caster in this list, and I've fed plenty of things to the Blightbringer. But having 2 Forsaken in the list also means that I can potentially ping pong yo-yo something in and then double Blight Bomb it. So if your caster is just a little too close to getting Forsaken dragged, you're dead.
So one of my concerns here is obviously I felt like Animag is the one caster I don't necessarily want Golab with, but Golab may be so good that it doesn't matter. Um, but she doesn't do as much to support a beast. Like her +2 strength spell doesn't work on it. The only way that the feat ends up benefiting it is if there happens to be a warrior in range. And so there's some concern of her running out of troops too fast. So I wondered if the route to go with her is kind of like David's Thagrosh list, where you're just like, I'm going all vengeance, like just 3 units of Warmongers.
I
Because then
could
you
see it.
keep kind of budget forces, but you still get 3 full units.
And that's very possible. I may have to try that avenue and get some more warmongers in there to have the bodies and have them play that attrition game. I like Golab with Animax specifically, like we were talking about her being the meta hammer, right? Her feat is a no tough, no healing button, right? Boop. And then you've got the Blightbringer, who's also the no tough button. And now you're adding Golab, who is also that no tough, no healing button. And so you can really spread out across the table on where you need that to be. And you don't have to really rely on Golab being the one thing to get around the field to deny tough to everybody.
That's true. Well, so I think we should probably also talk about Callus. Obviously, he's our
Mm-hmm.
big boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's our little boy, but he's our big boy. Um, and so is there some question is like how much of the list are going to change? Like, is JVM going to change his version? Am I going to change my version? And I don't know for sure yet. I still potentially think that in PT I may not change mine, but one thing that I was throwing around was Callus 1 with Blightbringer, Golab, Amok, Double Chosen, 2 units of Min Rotwings, 2 Hellmouths, Gobber Chef, and a Spell Martyr. So it doesn't have the Feral Geist anymore, and you end up losing 8 Rotwings compared to Jake's list. But you still have the Blightbringer, you still have Golab, you have 12 Rotwings that are going to be a little bit easier to manage with his control area. And so I often find that trying to keep all of the Hellmouth tentacles and the Rotwings spread out far enough that I often have to let a few be outside of the feet anyway. So this may kind of end up being kind of an amalgamation of the two list design to keep Golab in there. And then utilizing the Gobber Chef to give you some Fury management on the Blightbringer where you can hang back with like a tentacle that can just, clean off the Blightbringer should you need it. But I think there's potentially some real power in a list like this. And obviously, you could go 1 full unit of Rotwings so that you have 2 more points and could put in a Feral Geist. But if you put in the Feral Geist, you can't run the Chef. And I do worry that you might have some Fury management problems at different points. So that's all a trade-off. But overall, I suppose you could do Gobbers, like the Swamp Gobbers, with the 2 points to give him a little bit more protection. But I still think it's the solos that you're tweaking with those last few points. But I think I could do it without going overboard on the single wound models. And people are going to be gunning for him, especially people who run the Ravens list with him. People are going to be gunning for those single wound units. And in my history with Callus, a lot of time I felt like one unit can be enough. Like even back in the day, I often would do like Striders and Legionnaires, and that was it. Like I was running a real bare minimum package, and it was like 17 dudes or something, and it was not that big of a deal. Like you still get like a solid feat out of him either way. But what do you think? You think something like this may start seeing the table for our Callus boy, K boy?
I agree that it definitely opens up a lot of avenues for him, and I think it's interesting that you really honed in on like the solo package and how like 2 points can be the difference between how a list sings and how it doesn't. And Fury management's a big deal for Callus.
Yep. Well, I liked playing Blightbringer with him back in Mark II as well, and I was even running double Blightbringer. And
Mhm.
so there is always that direction. Like you may not play Golab, and I think there's reason to do like double Rotwings, double Blightbringer. But I think that list may be better in Ravens and doing grotesques. But Rotwings do have the benefit of reposition. Um, and but there's stuff to play around with there. And I think Callus, well, I think one of the best parts about it is we're each going to kind of probably find our favorite version of Callus, and it's going to be harder to plan for him. And even if I still play my version of Callus, and say I play the one that I was playing pre-Oblivion, it's going to be harder to plan for him because there's still going to be people that now bring Raven's Callus. And there's going to be people who try something like this. And there's going to be people playing Jake's list from pre-Oblivion. Like there's going to be more versions of it, and it's going to be difficult to figure out like what do I do against this particular version of Callus. And I mean, mind you, I really like Amok, but sometimes you got to step back and go, depending on which matchups I'm going to play this in, can I drop this to free up some points to do something interesting with? Um, So there's that too. But I love Amek and I have a really hard time not putting him in the list. But I try to keep that stuff in mind and not auto include stuff because it's a thing. But those are kind of our classics, right? PT was
Definitely.
Callus, Thags, and Animag. But I think we should talk about what else it's doing for some other locks. Do you have one in mind?
I do. So my other caster that I really enjoy in Primal Terrors is Fayana. I think that having a strong infantry list that also has access to Go Lab is kind of her bread and butter. And I was playing her basically 6 points down because of how the point shakedown worked. But now that we have requisition points, the list really opens up for me, and I think it smooths it out so much more. Because before, I felt like the kind of final finishing touches of the points were almost shoehorned into the list. So my current list with her is Fayana 2, Amok, Golab, and Double Nerf, a la Charles Aerosmith style. Um, Wrong Eye and Snapjaw because it Starcross is so good with her feet and high defense beasts. Double Forsaken, which used to be Double Shepherd. Getting 6 extra points means I turned. Well, they weren't shepherds. They were what was it? I can't remember what my 2 points were. But basically, being able to get the two Forsaken in there, and also another Gallows caster that can drag things to Forsaken Death, is amazing. Two Hellmouths, Blighted Ogren, Gorag Rotten Eye, and then a unit of Chosen. So getting that extra 6 points means that I went from having like a 2 point shoehorn that I had to stick in to 8 points that are very flexible within the list if I wanted to add a light to my beast package, if there were other solos that I wanted to get. Um, but specifically, I think having the Forsaken not only opens up some good Fury management for her, but she can put Fury on them and they can go to town on something. And then additionally, they're already naturally high defense, go up to defense 16 on her feet. So they can be sitting on a flag as a 4 point solo at defense 16. And then if your opponent comes in, they can just shred some shit.
So, do you have an idea of what sort of matchups do you want for Fayana? 'Cause, is she conceptually paired with Animag or is she paired with something else?
Well, I don't go PT and PT, and especially since her and Animag,
I go double PT.
I know you
This
do.
guy, who's got two thumbs and loves double PT? I do.
And there's nothing wrong with double PT. Like I've considered double PT a lot.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you feel that there's nothing wrong with the way that I play.
No, not at all. I mean, sometimes I do. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, what the fuck is Charles doing? I don't know. But
It's okay. I get that a lot. That is not a very uncommon thing for me to deal with. People are like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
well, and as far as like players from tabletop to list building to, execution, you probably wouldn't find two players more different than the two of us, but also still very similar in thinking on how things go and develop. So I understand you. I do.
Yeah.
But I'd probably pair it with Children of the Dragon or Ravens. I think that something a little softer, maybe playing more towards scenario and assassination. She also doesn't have a to hit buff, so outside of like Gorag, there's not a lot of ways to make her list more accurate, and so having a second list that's really accurate is nice. Um, I brought this list because I knew people wouldn't be prepared for it and that probably hadn't played against it. And then until they had solved it at least once, I would just win that match. And so a lot of times, um, it would be the second list where I go, all right, I have my core list. I could probably hardcore with this all day. But if I run into that one match where I'm like, WTF, in goes Fayana.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I don't know, it would be nice that both of your lists have the ability to spread wide, which I think Callus can sometimes struggle with. Theana doesn't really need to keep the chosen close to her, and so they could go wide. And then additionally, like when you're playing Animag, she's got a little bit bigger control area, and she's playing a fair, decent amount of troops, so she can go a little bit wider as well. So that helps you with the new scenarios.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about Fayana, as far as spreading out versus like being clumped together, is I tend to play her almost in little modules, right? So when I play this list, the Primal Terrors version of her, I like to run um, her whole beast package almost together. You know, you got three sprinting heavies who can then sprint back under the wrong eye and snapjaw aura, so you can have multiple turns of just really hard to kill, high defense stuff. And then you have your like shock troopers. You have the Blighted Ogre with Gorag and Chosen to get in there and buffer and also hit really hard and make it so that your opponent can't just get up on your sprinting beasts. And they have a lot to consider. Plus, as far as spreading out, even on those really wide scenarios, you can send your whole beast package on one direction, send your infantry package in another direction, and fire and forget. Other than like doling out fury, you mostly don't need to support them. Like they love to benefit from the defense buff because going from 12 to 15 is really nice, but it's not required.
Indeed. Well, let's bounce over. So now that we have like the beast package opens up, right? So there's new casters taking a look at PT. Let's talk about Absolonia 2, because I think she's on a lot of people's minds. I think she's going to be a very common caster that people are reaching for, especially in this, Proteus helps deal with clocks meta. So I put together kind of a sample list that's not 100% all in on the beast, trying to keep things moderated for scenarios. So it's Absolonia 2 with Amok, Golab, Proteus, Double Nerif, Seraph, a Feral Geist, 2 Forsaken, 2 Spell Martyrs, and then it's got Warmongers with Rotten Eye, and then it has double Hellmouths. So yeah, she does not do much to support the Warmongers, but I think they support her. They give her something that can go wide. It's something that can help the list chew through a bunch of infantry. It also, Gorag can help her be more fury efficient when she needs to go in and finish something off to trigger Alpha Hunter. And so actually giving her a bit of a buff, I think it is also good. And then the list ends up with a decent spread of solos too. So I don't feel like it's kind of weak in any area. If you wanted to, I think you could drop the Feral Geist for Swamp Gobbers just to give her a little bit more protection and another mobile unit for zone scoring in case you feel like the Warmongers need to be sacrificed more commonly. But at the very least, you've got Hellmouth Tentacles to go out and do a lot of work. And if you end up dropping the Feral Geist for Swamp Gobbers, you could drop a Spell Martyr for the Gobber Chef and, feed stuff that way. But I think Proteus does a lot of good work. The Nerifs and Golab if they trigger Alpha Hunter, they're sprinting 7 backwards.
So good.
That's pretty delightful. I'm a little worried that Proteus may do his job and then die too quickly. I think he almost has to get the armor buff from her to crank up his survivability, because I think he's gonna be a big target. So you may have to very intentionally use the Ogren to basically take up some of the space and burn attacks that are going the general direction of Proteus. Maybe put tentacles over there too to try to keep him around. But I think something like this is going to be a very popular list. And if you drop the Warmongers and you switch Rotten Eye to be like a free Amok, you gain 17 points. So you could drop a Spell Martyr, and then at that point you can upgrade that unit to like a Carnivian and get another heavy hitting beast that gives her access to an armor buff.
Spiny growth, so good.
Right. So that's another direction you could take this, but I think working off this basis, I think something like this is going to be pretty common.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it on the head right there with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to experiment with something along those lines, but it's tough.
Am I wrong in thinking you've been hard up for Abby lately? Like a couple episodes now, you've just been all on the Abby train.
Well, it's just the reality of what I think is worth discussing. I mean, I'm a little bit more hard for I want to play Thagrosh 2. But the question is whether or not Absolonia or Thagrosh 2 fills that role better. Because, I mean, you could take this same list concept and switch it over to Thagrosh. The hard part is you lose 3 points because he doesn't have his... Um, but you gain access to Typhon. And now, mind
Mm-hmm.
you, that spot, whether it's Typhon or Proteus or maybe even just a Carnivean if you need to free up some points, you're hurting on solos. But Thagrosh is a fucking monster to be like ending this list with. And being able to have the whole army, like at least with the whole beast package, step forward, murder a bunch of stuff, and then reposition. Um, that is still important. And I mean, it can still help in the Grimkin matchup where even if the things are time stuttering backwards, you can still potentially reposition your stuff even if you didn't get sprint. Um, so I don't know. It's all worth considering. And I do think that Thagrosh with the buff that he got in CID, gaining speed, gaining armor, he's worth considering. And I like with Gorag being able to effectively make Thagrosh mat 9, he has a lot more ability to get in there, murder some stuff, and sprint back and be reliable. But I felt like before you couldn't really utilize his POW 18 well enough because a lot of time he was swinging on like defense 13 stuff, and it just wasn't consistent enough.
Just the other day, somebody was messaging me and they were like, having Thags in a list is like having an extra heavy. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, 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 stop. Having Thagrosh in a list is way better than having an extra heavy. Like, legitimately, he's probably closer to 2 heavies.
He's like a character heavy, like a really good character heavy. But
7 Fury and spells.
yeah, but I mean he's gonna have to camp some, right? You still gotta keep that boy
Unless you win
alive.
in the game.
Yeah.
Ah, ah. Love
Um but yeah, I mean there's a lot of interesting lists to be playing around with here. And I do think that for me personally, there's a strong possibility that I will be playing like infantry heavy PT with like beast heavy PT.
Mm, interesting.
But you could take like either of these concepts for Thagrosh and Absaloni and apply them to Ravens, but this is not a Ravens episode. So
We did that one already. Go back and listen.
yeah, it's just been a while. I think we're ready to do another Ravens episode.
I
Ravens
am
Part
like,
2.
ever since we started that Ravens episode, I have gone back and been like, I need some more Ravens in my life. It's, what? I blame it on you. I blame it on you because, like, as soon as that stuff hit, you were like, Emmanuel, what about this Ravens list? What about that Ravens list? And about 45 lists later, I was like, oh shit, I think I'm behind. I'm only at like number 35. What am I missing out
Yeah,
on? But I love it.
I
Like,
got more stuff to look at.
the whole tier is opened up, and I think it could be a really good pair for Primal Terror. So I think the mention of even just saying, "Hey, Ravens, keep it in the back of your mind," because as a Primal Terror pair, they have a lot of similarity overlaps if you're worried about models, but they also have enough diversity between the two to be completely different problems for your opponent.
Yep. And like we ran into I ran into a problem and I really like dumped my problem like onto your plate at LVO where I was trying to figure out which version of Veil that I wanted to play. And the
Hmm.
problem was as soon as I tried to cut back on a unit to like work in an extra beast, then she loses a free thing. And that becomes really rough when you're like comparing like a Seraph at 14 points ends up being a unit of chosen or something like
Yeah,
that, where you're when you really cannot compare our beasts, like especially when they're losing 6 points, they really don't stack up.
it's true.
um and so that's where it became really hard for me to work in any other beasts, and so I basically had to rely on the infantry package. But I've really fallen in love with that 4 unit package with her, and so now it's really hard for me to want to tweak that. um
I think you
so
said something like that to me. You were like, "Man, it's really weird. I'm trying to put more beasts in my Veil list, and I can't see me taking out any units."
yeah, it's
Twilight Zone here.
it is like, wait, Vale 1 is one of the best infantry casters? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the reality that we're in right now. And that was really weird because back in the day she was really mediocre with infantry. You maybe took 1 unit to deliver Chiller, but her with her feet potentially affecting limited amounts of models and so many of her buffs specific to beasts, but now she is like an infantry monster.
Mm, so delicious.
Yeah, I mean, if it we have a fair, let's just say we Crick's better than Cricks. right? Like
It's true.
Animag, Callus, Vale, we're not short on casters who can deliver shit. Well, deliver is maybe not Animag's strong suit, but
Well, the
we
the
we
buff
punish
debuff
people.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we punish people with the infantry now.
Skewing
Um,
numbers is certainly something we've gotten really good at. And I think I said this right at the beginning of kind of our Mark III comeback is that Legion is the Horde's Crix, but I might even say that Legion is the new Crix. Like, we've taken over that slot for them.
but it is nice now, even though we have become a lot more, I don't want to say reliant on infantry, even though that's probably not wrong at the same time. We are now blessed with really good infantry, and we're
Mm.
blessed with great ways to support them. The blessings of Everblight upon us. Ah, la, 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 la. But now, at least we're not forced in that direction. And I think one of the things that defined some of the more beast heavy lists was that they could take cheap, dependable units, say like Kruger 2, where he was running like Battle Engine and just beast, but then he just had the two little units, that just keep making little, I forget what they're called, the little stick guys. But uh, right, but then when you have these cheap units that bring back dudes, they kind of are the defining addition to some of these beast heavy lists. And now we can do that. We can play a cool beast heavy list and just support them with Hellmouths.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited to see what comes out of this. So you're leaning away from double PT. Do you have are you thinking that Animag is going to remain your PT variant?
Yeah, probably. I haven't seen anything out there that's made me want to pull away from Animag from PT. So, solidly that she's still in my camp. She's still my number one bay.
Well, and she does potentially become even better. Even if you play a similar version as before, I think she's particularly good into Exalted, for instance. Like, I think Zaltu wants no part of Animag, especially if you go extra Warmongers. Right? Like the
Yeah, definitely.
Warmongers with grievous wounds and access to all of those buffs, they will chew right through Exalted even with the feat buff. So, and they'll ignore tough and they'll all die.
Eat them up.
She could have a little bit more problem with the mortar car variants, but again, they're still going to hit reasonably hard, so you're still probably going to do a lot of work. Um, hmm.
As he quietly sneezes and takes a drink. So my
Yeah.
question to you
At
is,
least I
I
didn't
mean,
sneeze into my drink.
ew. When you're earlier you were talking about double PT. Is there any other tier that you would consider pairing with PT right now where you're like, that would be the thing to pull me off the double PT path?
Well, the double PT path is more along the lines of like what I'm enjoying playing, but I could see there are some options to like say play Callus 1 in Ravens, and if I like that list, I could potentially see Callus 1 Ravens with like my Veil 1 PT list remaining very infantry heavy, but going a little bit more beasts
Mm.
with Callus. He still runs them phenomenally well, and so he can run a very 50-50 mix list as opposed to like 70-30. And I think that will still perform very well. But it's just a different style of list. Um, but then I have looked at like what would Veil 1 look like in Ravens. And so, but again, I feel like what really takes her up a notch is the getting packed with the infantry. And I think Chosen are one of the things that just make her abusive and degenerate right now. And so I'm just not sure she's going to get those things from the other theme. But some people are exploring Veil in Children of the Dragon for access to Azrael and Typhon. And I think that's definitely possible, but I worry that there's not enough good infantry. But she gets the free incubi. And so I think the incubi are fantastic there. So it may be she turns on incubi probably more so than any other caster that we have.
Mm. I
So
could see it.
there's those options, but I still think that I think even more so than before, I think double PT may still be the most common pairing. But the list that we were talking about with Absolonia, obviously it gets the free Hellmouths in PT, but you can at least get Hellmouths in Ravens. So you could take that same style of list and apply it elsewhere if you don't want to double up. But one of the things I like about this is it bag space is always an issue, right? If you're going to
Mm-hmm.
travel to a con or what you're bringing anywhere, it all becomes of concern. And so sometimes it is nice to go, well, there's a fair amount of overlap. And if you're like, okay, I've got my Callus list or whatever, my Animag list already in the bag. And then you're like, well, now I'm just going to play this beast heavy list with that. And you just got to fit in like 3 beasts, but all the units, all of the Hellmouths, they're already in your bag. You just got to find room for your caster and these other beasts that you're mixing in. So,
Fair point.
and I mean, it's not like we're going to see other, it's not like we're not going to see other adjustments down the road. And obviously, we still have some beasts that are overcosted. And so, as that stuff rounds out, life's only going to get better for us. But now it's just so relieving to just be like, all of our themes are playable. All of our themes can run a mixture of beasts and units now. We don't have that super restriction that's just keeping us from being fully functional. And I'm impressed with what we were able to do at our restricted, what we were able to do with the restricted themes. But now things are looking way tastier.
I would also argue that Legion has some of the best, if not the best, requisition options in the game. Between Incubi and Hellmouths, like, we fucking hit the lottery, man.
Yeah, I would say, I think Menoth can probably argue getting
For
that
sure.
free 7 point unit of shield guards is pretty fantastic.
Legit.
And there's a few that are up there, but yeah, Incubi and Hellmouth, and I really do think that the people who are trying Children of the Dragon and trying Oracles and not going with your like let's take 5 to 15 free Incubi, they're missing out because it really is an amazing option. I can believe, but I'm impressed that we were able to get it in both Oracles and Children.
So
That
happy.
that plays nicely into this. All right, well, I don't think we have to like lay into PT too much because it is in a big way what we were already doing, what we were already building. But I'm excited because now we've done our 4 theme episodes, right? I do 4 on both hands, so that means 8. Now look,
Well, that just
double
means we have to
peaks.
do part 2 on all of them now.
Yeah, like follow up, like get in a bunch of tournaments and then we come back and touch on them again.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
totally gonna happen. But I'm excited. Time to like take some of these lists, get out to some tournaments, get out to some events, and start playing them. So, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. How does War Machine Weekend look for you?
It's possible. I got the Phoenix Open on the horizon as long as I
Mm,
make it home in time. So
yeah,
fingers crossed for that. There's the NorCal Classic coming up in the Bay. Possibility, not a far drive for me. And then with War Machine Weekend in the wings, I might be able to make it. It's looking good, Charles.
I've already gotten my time off for War Machine Weekend, so that one is definitely one I'll be prepping for. I'm gonna probably go back and get myself back into the last chance qualifier again. I haven't done that since like 2013 or 2014 was the last time I was in one of those. It's a
Mm.
slog, but I can handle slogs.
With our luck, we'll just end up against each other.
Yeah, like round one.
Well, so be it.
Yep,
You
it
know, if
happens.
anything, it'll be like the LVO, and we'll both go undefeated and just represent for the Blight.
Yeah, that would be great. Like neither of us qualify for War Machine Weekend, but then we just like face each other in the finals of the last chance qualifier, and it would just be like, well, one of us is getting in, so we're both happy right now. Like
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
good for the show either way.
That'd be the fight of the century. It'd be our first game since like Lock and Load 2013 or something crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I forget. We got paired up in one of those early tournaments, like right after we started podcasting, and it
Well,
was like,
we were prepping for the podcast wars, if I remember correctly, and you played Saren against me, and I played Denny too, and it was a really weird game because both of us were just like weirdly jockeying for position, and I'm like hell mouthing stuff out of the way, and then you make it like unable to kill. It's a weird time in Mark II. Hopefully, we have a more interesting game, and if we're lucky, on camera.
for sure. All right, listeners. Well, I think we can wrap up our Primal Terrors episode because for all the non-Legion listeners, they're literally having Primal Terrors and like, don't listen to this too late at night. There should have been like a warning at the beginning, like, do not listen to this Primal Terrors episode right before going to bed because you will have night terrors afterwards, thinking about what these casters are going to do with you since they can all play GoLab now. And just you have GoLab in your dreams, it's like, caca, caca.
You know, in football, they're like, oh, they heard the footsteps. They're going to start hearing the wing beats.
Yeah. So nerdy. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. I think it's that time. Lights out.
Bye-bye.